onespotmedia.com. The parliamentary opposition is strongly against moves by the health authorities to reduce reliance on testing for diagnosing COVID-19. The health ministry says it's now contemplating a move towards clinical diagnosis. Under such a scenario, a doctor could diagnose a person as having COVID-19 based on their symptoms without doing a test. However, opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Maurice Guy, says that would be a mistake.
The minister himself is on record to suggest that in terms of reporting of COVID, we will be adopting the method using dengue, where only a certain proportion of the cases are actually reported. The opposition feels that this is not good public health practice. And in fact, whichever advisors gave him that information or that particular protocol is wrong.
Dr. Guy says he's also opposed to removing the requirement for pre-entry testing for persons arriving in Jamaica from certain locations.
We totally disagree with that. You see, the government is hell-bent on opening the economy. We don't have a challenge with open economy, which we think is important, but it has to be based on sound scientific parameters. If you are going to lift those requirements, it means that you're going to expose the country to more cases than we already have. And this cannot be right, because you are going to be potentially exposing the lives of our people and in fact the deaths of our people to increased numbers coming from abroad if we abandon this particular protocol.
And more concerns this afternoon about the slow pace of delivering COVID-19 test results. The Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers has sought the intervention of the Permanent Secretary in the Health Ministry about outstanding test results for public health inspectors and vector control staff. Janella Pursues reports.
Could the COVID-19 response program be under threat? The Jamaica Association of Local Government Officers, JALGO, is suggesting that it could be, as several workers are in quarantine awaiting their COVID-19 test results. But there's more. JALGO, in a release Monday, point to various programs in the health department which are being impacted because workers are absent due to the delay in receiving their COVID test results. According to JALGO, the entire vector control staff and a significant number of public health inspectors are in quarantine. This has also impacted dengue mitigation. JALGO says the test results have been outstanding since last Wednesday. The association, in seeking the intervention of the permanent secretary, questioned the priority given to the testing of these categories of workers. It has also pointed to cramped working conditions which make physical distancing impossible. In addition to addressing these issues, the association is calling on the Ministry of Health to put measures in place for COVID-19 testing for healthcare workers. It says that this should be treated with the utmost urgency.
In the meantime, another 5 deaths have been recorded in the last 24 hours in the island due to COVID-19, bringing the death toll to 75. The deaths include 2 women, a 61 and a 54-year-old, both of a Kingston and St. Andrew address. An 82-year-old man, also of a Kingston and St. Andrew address, succumbed to the respiratory illness. Now, the 2 other deaths are a 52-year-old woman with a St. Catherine address and a 93-year-old man with a St. Mary address. 4 of the 5 deceased had confirmed pre-existing conditions. Meanwhile, 127 positive COVID-19 cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. This has pushed the country's case count to 5,270. Cases were recorded in 13 parishes. Kingston and St. Andrew, again with 59, recorded the highest number of cases, bringing the number of cases in that locale to 1,958. Hanover is the only parish that did not record any new case in the last 24 hours. The health ministry says 135 persons are in hospital, with 16 of them being moderately ill. Another 10 persons are considered critically ill. In the meantime, 37 persons have recovered from the respiratory illness in the last 24 hours, bringing the recoveries to date to 1,444. The Child Protection and Family Services Agency is seeking the public's assistance in locating a toddler who was seen in a video on social media smoking a cigarette and consuming alcohol. The agency's CEO, Rosalie Gage Gray, told our news centre that the cybercrimes unit is now involved in the investigation. The video has sparked outrage among members of the public who openly posted their disgust at its contents. The toddler is seen smoking a cigarette while adult voices are heard encouraging him to puff and praising him for making the attempt.
So we have seen the video. It's very disturbing. That is child abuse at the very serious level. And so we have taken the necessary steps to see if we can identify the child and his family. And we are working with the cybercrimes unit.
Head of the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offences and Child Abuse, Sisoka, Senior Superintendent of Police Charmaine Shand, says the matter is under investigation.
Inform the public that we immediately commenced investigations into the matter and is presently working with the JCF Cybercrime, Forensic and Communication Division to authenticate the video. We are also in communication with Mrs. Gage Gray of the Child Protection and Family Services Agency.
SSP Shand is appealing to anyone who has information regarding the origin of the video to share it with the police.
We need to protect our children. We are appealing to anyone with information relating to this particular matter to come forward and give us the information. We are appealing to the general public, the citizens of Jamaica, to desist from abusing our children.
We now take a break on the midday news, but just to also let you know that we are standing by for a live press conference from the office of the Prime Minister. It will deal with matters relating to COVID-19. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. Chief Justice Brian Sykes this morning chided members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force for failing to transport one of the 18 defendants in the Uchen's Wilson gang trial to court on time. The second day of the summation of evidence is on the way. Minutes after 10 o'clock, a senior prosecutor from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions told Justice Sykes that Chantal Gordon, who is among the 18 defendants, would arrive late. Justice Sykes said he was amazed by the level of inefficiency despite the location of the prisoners. Now, Ms. Gordon subsequently arrived at the courthouse. At least one political commentator believes the new shadow cabinet, which was revealed on Monday, will be ineffective in challenging the government. The harsh criticism comes from Clyde Williams, a former member of the party. Details in this report.
Political scientist at the New Jersey City University, Dr. Jermaine McAlpin, says the PNP can still make an effective opposition despite their reduced numbers in the House of Representatives.
The first and most obvious role of an effective democratic opposition, and in this case the PNP, is to impact policy making. Some may argue that, well, they don't have a say in the lower house. I don't agree. They can still make their voices known, right? Legislation is done in a bicameral, two chambers. They make up 38% of the Senate. They are still critical in impacting policy making.
But with the selection of the shadow cabinet members on Monday, attorney at law and political commentator Clyde Williams says he is not impressed as no effective change was made when compared with the previous one. He believes the opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips failed to send a signal that he is listening to the call for change. Mr. Williams says despite a few additions, it is basically the same team from the last parliamentary year, which for him did not perform.
It's really a lame duck opposition council. It's really lame duck. That's just the straight truth about the matter. I wasn't impressed in the last parliamentary term, far from, and I'm worst because he's had an opportunity to carve something a little different, even though it would be interim, so that Jamaica could see that the PNP understood the message that was sent on the 3rd. But he has started Jamaica with the same team that the country rejected.
In the meantime, he says he's not looking forward to any real work from the new members of the shadow cabinet. He explained why.
Dr. Phillips did not lead the previous shadow council to really perform. If you look at the last shadow council, 16 to 20, he didn't lead them to perform. So I don't expect that Brownberg and Lawson and the others will perform. The three that have come in, I don't expect they will perform, not in an environment when there's lack of leadership.
Mr. Williams also had other concerns in how the shadow cabinet was formed.
I don't understand why the ministries are not shadowing exactly. If you see, he hasn't shadowed the exact ministries of the government, and I'm kind of working out why not. So again, structurally, I have an issue with that because every ministry has specific subjects and departments and agencies under that ministry. And when you don't do it exact, you may miss an agency or two because of how you have crossed it here and there.
Rashid Masters, TVJ News.
Member of Parliament for South St. Andrew, Mark Golding, has confirmed that he will be vying for the presidency of the People's National Party, PNP. Mr. Golding told our news centre that he's still engaged in internal discussions ahead of Sunday's National Executive Council meeting. He says he will be speaking publicly following the meeting. Vice President of the People's National Party, PNP, Damien Crawford, earlier this month indicated that he's interested in the leadership position. PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips has notified the party that he intends to step aside following its defeat in the September 3 general election. The Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, is reporting that students recorded an increase in passes in mathematics and English language in the 2020 Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC. Over 58,000 students were registered to sit the CSEC examinations, while 16,000 sat CAPE. An analysis of the CSEC exams showed that mathematics and English language recorded percentage passes of 52 and 82% respectively. Compared to last year, this is a 6 percentage point increase in mathematics and a 3 percentage point increase in English language passes. Other subjects with improved pass rates include chemistry with a 2% increase, biology 6%, physics 2%, social studies 5%, and integrated science 1%.
We saw a 3.81% increase, where we had an overall 368,735 subject persons across subject areas receiving acceptable grades for 2019 in comparison to 382,783 in 2020. You're seeing on the screen 97,807 in comparison to 84,565 for 2019. And that's a consistent increase for grades 1 and 2, but a slight reduction for grade 3.
Meanwhile, on the side of declines, there was a decrease of 2% in information technology passes when compared to the previous year. For the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Exam, CAPE students recorded an increase in passes in Caribbean Studies and Pure Mathematics, with passes of 98 and 72% respectively. Now, compared to last year, this is a 1 percentage point increase in both subjects. The pass rate for Communication Studies, Computer Science, and History remained constant when compared to 2019 results. News overseas now: the death of U.S. Supreme Court Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg threw a major curveball into the U.S. presidential campaign, but Republicans are pushing to confirm a nominee before the election. More from the CNN.
With just 6 weeks to go until Election Day, the battle over filling Ruth Bader Ginsburg's Supreme Court seat is intensifying. President Trump, whose campaign could benefit from a swift confirmation, says he will announce his nominee by the end of this week after memorial services for Ginsburg have concluded.
Well, I'd much rather have a vote before the election because there's a lot of work to be done, and I'd much rather have it. We have plenty of time to do it. I mean, there's really a lot of time. I'm just doing my constitutional obligation. I have an obligation to do this. So I would rather see it before the election.
Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden campaigning in Wisconsin on Monday, insisting the winner of the election should fill the vacancy.
We're in the middle of an election. By the time that vote comes up, if it comes up, there will have been close to 40% of people have already voted. It's a violation of the spirit of the Constitution to suggest that he should not wait until the outcome of the election.
Trump says there are 5 women on the short list. And a source tells CNN that among those thought to be in the running, one apparent frontrunner, Amy Coney Barrett, met with President Trump at the White House on Monday.
Time now for sports. Red-hot apprentice O'Shane Nugent is in a rich vein of form at Caymanas Park, especially since racing resumed at the track on June 20, moving into the top 4 of the jockeys' standings.
O'Shane Nugent was one of 18 riders who graduated from the Jamaica Racing Commission's JRC's Jockeys School just under a year ago. He had no winners in 2019, but the Gregory Park native would turn his fortunes around in early 2020, getting his first win aboard Raw Liquid on February 8, going over the 5-straight course. Nugent was the valedictorian of his batch, and generally they don't often do well once they start riding. However, he is determined to not fall into that trap.
I've been working hard to do this thing for over a couple of years, so I get the opportunity now, so I'm here to prove myself to the public that I have the ability to do this.
Nugent snatched a double on Saturday, winning the overnight allowance contest aboard God of Love, going 5 furlongs round. He also piloted El Cliente to victory over the 5-straight course in the $250,000 optional claiming event. That double took him to 19 winners and into the top 4.
Ahead of them, and El Cliente has now struck the lead. El Cliente racing wide in the red and white sleeves, hold the advantage. Ballerina Steel is in the center. Boss Izzy is trying to close in on them, but it's all El Cliente with a furlong to run. El Cliente continues to lead them up and doesn't seem as if they'll be able to reach out and touch this El Cliente and O'Shane Nugent. They're in the last 16th and they're clear and running away from the field. El Cliente crushes opponents, wins by 5 or more over War Hero, then Boss Izzy, could be Sweetie Girl next, close between Powerful Red and Top Eagle.
Well, my plans for next year is to get some more good rides from the trainers, and we'll take it from there.
Nugent is the only apprentice not just from the 2019 batch, but among those from 2018 as well, to be in the top 5. Denise Walters for TVJ Sports.
That's it from us here at TVJ. That's the Midday News. I'm Vashan Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a wonderful afternoon.